Coming to you from the Hudson Media Group studio, this is Talking Politics, and I am New Jersey's premier journalist and the sworn enemy of all the toxic progressives, social justice clowns, and woke fools throughout Hudson County and throughout the state of New Jersey. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Hope you all had a wonderful week. Certainly Thanksgiving is right around the corner, and as always, there's a lot to talk about, so let's get started. Here's what I'm thinking about right now. Folks, there is a very ugly cast of characters in today's political climate that I want to call out. And I've done it before, but today I really want to go after them. And that's the condescending liberals, not just locally, statewide, but also nationally. And it seems that, you know what, this is a demographic that isn't going away anytime soon. Now, let me quote the late, great Charles Krautheimer, who once wrote, quote, "To understand the workings of American politics, okay, you have to sort of look at it from a fundamental perspective. A lot of conservatives think that liberals are stupid, while liberals think that conservatives are evil." Well, let me update this a little bit for 2021 as we quickly approach 2022. Yes, conservatives still think that liberals are stupid, but ultimately what we're seeing now for quite some time is that liberals think conservatives are killers. So over the last 18 months, let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen, the free thinkers like myself who dared to question nonsensical masking or lockdowns were labeled everything from selfish grandma killers to ignorant Neanderthals. Well, folks, I'm none of those things, but you wouldn't know that from some on the left who can sort of continue this narrative even to the day. Now, keep in mind that these, morally superior name callers were many of the same liberals who cheered and celebrated when, at this point last year, then President Donald Trump actually contracted COVID. Now, one of the former President Barack Obama's ex-staffers, Zara Rahim, which was interesting though, wrote in a since deleted tweet, quote, "It's been against my moral identity to tweet this for the past 4 years, but I hope he dies." When, for example, Senator Rand Paul was attacked by his Kentucky neighbor in 2017 and left with a punctured lung and 6 broken ribs, if you remember, Casey Hunt from the intellectually bankrupt MSNBC relished the headline and said on the air, quote, "It was one of my favorite stories." Or recently, when a man was killed in a car crash in Georgia, and a blue check mark and a failed radio talk show host, Tom Leykis, once wrote, "Hey, there's one less Trump supporter." But sure, let's be honest, in their eyes, Republicans are the hate-filled villains, right? They're full of venom and vitriol. Well, folks, in fact, throughout many here in the Neanderthal nation, who seem to be wreaking havoc on social media, right, with their disinformation about COVID-19, when, let's say, I don't know, other things about leftism and progressivism is being exposed, well, the liberal media in New Jersey, or even throughout the country, could care less. I mean, let's hope that, let's say, colluding, for example, with big tech in order to sort of suppress opposing opinions like the ones I've had, where I've been suspended multiple times on Facebook, doesn't interfere with, let's be honest, President Biden's grueling, ice cream schedule, which he tries to keep on a daily basis when he's not napping. So, of course, when we talk about media, folks, when we talk about liberals that permeate in our media institutions, let's just look at it here in New Jersey. One of the news sites that I partner with, Insider NJ, published their annual power list right before the League of Municipalities conference in Atlantic City. And it was interesting to me as I'm reading through the power list, some very deserving names and some others that, quite frankly, shouldn't be there. When I saw someone like David Cruz, good old Uncle Dave from NJTV, being called a consummate professional. Folks, if there's anything about David Cruz, it's not consummate and it's not professional. He's pretty much a propagandist. And we see that consistently, the way that he interviews or attempts to interview people, or his ability to be interesting. And what's really a disservice is that he's taking over for who I would argue is on the Mount Rushmore of journalism in the state of New Jersey, and that's the great Michael Aaron. Now, Michael Aaron stepped away last year to pursue smaller projects, but of course we've all known him to be the guy that has done hundreds, if not thousands, of wonderful interviews with multiple governors, legislators, candidates, activists, and everyone under the political sun. So it's really a shame that NJTV, which is now NJPBS, has kind of put the reins on David Cruz, for example, which we all know is a leftist propagandist. Or the idea that we have other liberal journalists throughout the state of New Jersey that for whatever reason think that they remain credible. And this is, again, getting back to the fact that the liberal media is so overwhelming in their monopoly of information, whether, again, it's at the national level or even at the statewide level. I mean, folks, listen, I just flew back from Dallas, Texas not too long ago, and what do I see in airports? Yeah, I see CNN and MSNBC and a lot of the bars and some of the other restaurants. That's the only reason these garbage networks have any ratings to begin with. If they weren't on in every major airport in the country, who's really watching this trash? Anybody with half a semblance of intelligence isn't going to be watching this stuff. But again, they think that they're the leader in news, when we all know that Fox News destroys them each and every day, not just in the important demographics, but in content overall. But again, folks, let me get back to, again, sort of the toxicity of condescending liberals, because we see it not just in politics, but we see it in our activism. We see it in the way that even some decide to run their campaigns, whether it be at the national level, at the statewide level, or even at the local level. These are the sort of toxic progressives and liberals that I go to town on every single week when I can. Folks, don't give me material, and I won't have a reason to go after you. But again, for a lot of them out there who, for whatever reason, either didn't take high school biology or failed it, folks, I'm almost interested in starting a GoFundMe for a lot of these progressives and liberals who talk about science, who talk about, we're going to be underwater soon, and pretty sure Aquaman's going to come and knock on our door and deliver our mail because we're so, irresponsible with the climate. Yes, folks, we have to take care of Mother Earth, there's no question. But the hysteria that many on the left are espousing about climate hysteria seems to be a little bit overblown, right? Remember, it was global warming for so many years, but then when these fools realized, the Earth is actually cooling because it goes through cycles, right? I mean, again, if you took natural sciences in high school or in college, you would know this. But then they had to stop calling it global warming because the Earth was cooling, so they had to go to climate change. Well, I'm sure when the Earth starts to warm again, it'll go round and round and round. So it's this sort of intellectually bankrupt narrative that we start seeing from the left, folks. So it's about science or when to, believe in science. Yeah, they're all about science when it suits them, right? So when it comes to talking about, basic biology, the fact that there's only two genders. Yes, folks, two genders, in case you also failed high school biology. You know what? It's interesting when the left wants to, die on a hill for science. Or when it comes to dying on a hill about economics, when it's clear that none of them took any economics course, whether it was in undergrad or even in graduate school. But folks, again, this is a life we're living in today. This is the climate that we right now are experiencing, where liberals think that they get it so right, but as we all know, whether it's policy-wise or even when it comes to them being intellectually bankrupt as often as they are, we learn that they're more fraudulent than they are accurate. But, again, let them die on a hill, let them sink themselves, while conservatives like me, who at least come to the table with facts and information, well, we all know who's going to win those arguments each and every time. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. And now some local stories for your consideration. A special thank you to Aaron Morrill with the Jersey Times for his report on this story. So, as the article references, according to History.com, the phrase, quote, to throw down the gauntlet originally meant to challenge another to a duel. Now, gauntlet derives from the French word gauntlet, which referred to the heavy armored gloves worn by medieval knights. Quote, in an age when chivalry and personal honor were paramount, throwing a gauntlet at the feet of an enemy or an opponent was considered a grave insult that could only be answered with personal combat. And the offended party was expected to, quote, take up the gauntlet to acknowledge and ultimately accept the challenge. Well, seemingly provoked by a press release earlier last week by Councilman Rich Borgiano attacking him on the issue of bike lanes and parking, it seems like progressive candidate Kevin Bing has now thrown down the proverbial gauntlet at the feet of the Ward C councilman leading up to their upcoming runoff on December the 7th and subsequently challenged him to a debate. Now, the Bing campaign issued a press release saying, quote, I invite Rich Borgiano to a public debate to be moderated by John Hines of the Hudson County View. Now, voters in Ward C deserve to know where Boggiano and I stand on issues important to them. While my opponent wants to make this decision a choice between bikes and parking, my campaign is looking forward to an honest and frank discussion of the wide range of issues at stake in this election, like homelessness services, affordable housing, and quality of life issues. Again, this is according to Kevin Bing. Well, folks, let me just start off by saying Kevin Bing is absolutely full of it when he wants to talk about, he is looking forward to an open and honest discussion. Well, that's just not true, folks, and I can say this because, I reached out to the Bing campaign earlier this week, looking to see if I can get him on my 5-time award-winning podcast, Talking the Hudson, or also with my 4-time award-winning podcast, Politically Direct, via InsiderNJ.com. And obviously, he's a gentleman, but very much like James Solomon, he was told, I guess by his campaign handlers, that they're not interested and that they would rather not accept the invitation. Folks, this is a funny thing about progressives. They all talk about being open-minded. It's like liberals, folks. Liberals run this fallacy by you, and they don't fool me. They never have. That they're so open-minded, that they're so tolerant. No, folks, that's all gibberish. They're open-minded and tolerant about things that they like or what suits them. They're not tolerant and open-minded overall. It's, again, a very selective type of tolerance and, being woke, as they say. Folks, don't be fooled. Now, again, I don't want to sort of trash Kevin Bing altogether, but very much like James Solomon, and I get it that, in Ward E, hey, the voters decided, and that's fine, where it seems like someone like James Solomon is trying to be like the AOC of Hudson County. I've talked about this before, folks, aside from the fact that she's a toxic woman to begin with, but the idea that these sort of progressive, woke politics resonate at the local level, they resonate in Ward E, which is very transient, and it's a lot of the, white woke people in downtown Jersey City that are all busy, drinking their macchiatos and cappuccinos, and, their biggest decision of the day is whether or not to have soy milk or almond milk, in their, super duper mega cappuccino. I get it. It's a little bougie crowd in downtown that likes people like James Solomon. Well, that's okay. I find it hard to believe that that's the same type of crowd that's going to push Kevin Bing across the finish line coming up on December 7th. Again, I'll reach out to Councilman Boggiano. I'm sure he'll want to come on my podcast and have a discussion. But when I see something like this about Kevin Bing throwing down the gauntlet, listen, he's smart to ask for John Hines to moderate the debate. John Hines is an exceptional journalist, a fellow colleague here at the Hudson Media Group, and he's a guy who I just have infinite amount of respect for all the good stuff that he does with the Hudson County View. Now, again, I don't feel slighted he didn't name me. That's not the point here. The point is that you need to be a little consistent. You want to talk about, I want to have a discussion about issues. I want to have a discussion about what matters to Ward C. Well, then go on different platforms. I get it, folks, that my brand of opinion journalism isn't for everybody. But if you've been listening to Talk on the Hudson for over 4 years now, again, and we're approaching year 5 now in March of 2022, I've had every mayor basically under the sun here in Hudson County on the show. I've had multiple council people, commissioners, activists, journalists, and candidates alike all coming on the show. So it remains reputable. So it kind of makes you wonder, what does the Kevin Bing campaign have to hide? Does he think I'm going to sandbag him? Has he not listened to other episodes? Did he not hear my episode with Frank Gilmore, the councilman-elect in Ward F in Jersey City? Did you hear how fair I was with Frank? Of course he didn't, because he'd rather go with the narrative, like a lot of people on that side of the aisle, that, conservatives aren't capable of being fair. Conservatives aren't capable of being intellectually honest. Folks, I'm intellectually honest every single day. I'm fair every single day and twice on Sunday. You can see it with the way I interview people, the way I moderate debates, the way I moderate town halls. Ladies and gentlemen, the content is there. The body of work is there. Now, whether or not people who handle Kevin Bing's campaign agree, do it to your detriment, folks. But in a time when you need every single pair of eyes and ears on you, when you're trying to unseat an incumbent in a runoff election, turning off or turning away different journalists in Hudson County is something, Kevin, you may regret doing leading up to December 7th. Speaking of progressives, another local story here for your consideration. And once again, thank you to John Hines with the Hudson County View for his report on it. So Ward E Councilman James Solomon is set to host a fundraiser for Ward C challenger Kevin Bing, again leading up to the December 7th runoff election. Now, the councilman in Ward E said, quote, "Thank you all so much for your support to re-elect me to the city council in Jersey City. I am eager to get back to work to push Jersey City to build a livable and equitable city. And that will work and will be much more fruitful if I am joined on the council by my friend Kevin Bing. As you may know, Kevin is running to represent Ward C, and he faces a runoff election on December the 7th. Kevin's running a similar campaign as I did, proudly progressive and independent from the political establishment and real estate developers." Now, Solomon won a re-election campaign in a blowout on November 2nd, beating Chief Municipal Prosecutor Jay Cudnett, who ran on the mayor's ticket by a margin of 69% to 31%. He won his first term in the December 2017 runoff, coincidentally. Now, while Frank Gilmore pulled off a big upset in Ward F, defeating Councilman Jermaine Robinson by around 23 points, Fulp still enjoys a 6-2 majority on the city council heading into the runoff. Now, Bing looks to unseat two-term incumbent Richard Borgiano, who ran independently in 2013 and also in 2017 before joining Mayor Stephen Fulop's ticket for a third term in 2021. Now, tickets start at $100 per person, and Bing said earlier in the week that he had, quote, raised $13,000 since the runoff race started. Well, folks, again, and, shout out to James Solomon. Congrats to him on winning another term. And as I've talked about before, ladies and gentlemen, yes, progressives like him, care about things that, quite frankly, I think, again, it's a bougie crowd down there in Ward E. It's kind of hard to decipher what that crowd is exactly. Whether, again, it's the macchiato sipping, woke, bougie type of people, right? That they're all worried about pronouns and the 25 genders that don't exist, or making sure that bathrooms accommodate everybody. Folks, no one cares about that stuff. I sure as hell don't. I care about the bread and butter stuff, the meat and potatoes things that I think most residents care about. Making sure your garbage gets picked up. Coming up during the winter months, that the snow gets shoveled and plowed in a timely manner, that people don't have to dig their cars out for days on end. Or the fact that services are available for seniors or for disabled children, or making sure that the schools are funded accordingly and that there's enough space in our schools, and that, again, city services are running at an optimum level. I mean, these are the things, ladies and gentlemen, that most residents care about. I get it. James Solomon wants to be this progressive hero. He wants to be, AOC of Jersey City, where, let's struggle economics too, and, let's free this or free that, or everything's about equity and making sure everything's transparent, and everything's about rainbows and unicorns and peaches and cream. And folks, I don't know about you, that sort of stuff doesn't matter to me. And I'm sure it doesn't matter to a lot of other residents. Now, Ward C is a very different ward than the downtown bougie white woke crowd that I know that James Solomon, appeals to. And that's great. Good for them. I don't know if it's going to work for Kevin Bing, but as I said before, you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. You can't be, demanding a debate against the incumbent where you're saying that, you want to talk about issues. Well, you can't be doing that when you're turning away other journalists, reputable journalists, on their shows, when it seems like you're afraid to talk about issues that, quite frankly, if you want to talk about a platform and talk about policy prescriptions, be willing to talk about them with everybody, not just when it suits you. Because folks, here at the Hudson Media Group, we're very fair. It starts off with our CEO, Pat O'Melia, John Highness with the Hudson County View and his show here, and even my own show, Talking Politics, right here with the Hudson Media Group. We're all fair. We'll talk about issues. We'll certainly insert our opinions. We have something to say. That's the way it works. But, for someone like Kevin Bing and James Solomon, listen, it's a match made in heaven. They're both progressives. They're all about, bicycle lanes and, worrying about climate hysteria and thinking that, Jersey City downtown's going to be underwater and that Ward C is going to be underwater and that we're going to need rafts to get around. Folks, this sort of hysteria is just so crazy. It's a turnoff, but it seems to be working with certain parts of the city. Now, whether or not that translates to everybody in Jersey City embracing this madness, that remains to be seen. But again, folks, to Kevin Bing, I wish you luck, man. But when you turn away other media outlets because it doesn't suit you or you just want to be a little bougie yourself, do so at your own peril. But we all know how that might turn out for you once again coming up to the runoff election on December the 7th. Let's head a little south to the peninsula city of Bayonne, and I thank you to Terry West from the Jersey Journal for her report on this story. Now, apparently Bayonne High School's Turning Point USA chapter is now old enough to have students who participate as freshmen away at college. Yes, it is in its 5th year, and the club affiliated with a prominent and oftentimes controversial National Conservative Youth Organization, is sparking debate in the Bayonne school community about the national group itself, where one teacher called it a, quote, flea-ridden dog, and whether a chapter belongs in the high school altogether. Now, students who identify themselves as minorities told the Board of Education at its recent October board meeting that they feel less safe at the school knowing that they have peers who affiliate themselves with Turning Point USA, whose past controversies involve spreading disinformation, which isn't true, and hateful rhetoric, which is plainly false, against blacks, Jews, Muslims, and the LGBT plus Q, ABC, whatever the hell the acronym is now. It seems like they're adding a new consonant every week in that community. Now, two teachers called for a rebranding of the club at the September board meeting, arguing that while a debate or Young Republicans club would be appropriate, a club affiliated with the, quote, once again, flea-ridden dog of Turning Point USA risks hurting the high school communities because of the national organization's reputation. Now, club members on campus, meanwhile, say the chapter welcomes students of all beliefs and backgrounds and is simply a place to converse and debate about political topics. It's indeed the First Amendment that keeps district officials as little more than spectators to the discussion. Now, administrators do monitor what goes on in the club, like all clubs, but at this time, they do not see grounds to change it because the students are exercising their First Amendment freedom of speech and have not broken school rules, again, according to Board of Education President Maria Vallado in a recent interview. Shout out to Maria. I've interviewed her on Talking to Hudson. She's a stand-up lady, and I applaud her for taking this position here because a lot of the leftist teachers in the Bayonne School District, like many other school districts, right, because they're all run by the NGA, we all know what a garbage union that is. But of course, credit to her for standing up for these students and giving them a platform. Now, she said this week, quote, censoring or curtailing speech is very complicated. So, our attorneys have advised us that the U.S. Supreme Court has long recognized that students do not shed their constitutional rights and right to freedom of speech when they come into the school building. Again, that's a statement put out by her office. Now, Bill Montgomery and then teenage Charlie Kirk founded National Turning Points USA in 2012. It now claims to be the most organized, active, and powerful network of conservative student activists and names its core values as freedom, free markets, and limited government. Well, folks, listen, I've had the chance to meet Charlie Kirk when he along with the great Candace Owens, have gone to college campuses all across the country. I got a chance to meet them both at Rutgers University, my alma mater in New Brunswick, a couple of years ago. Folks, there's nothing wrong with Turning Points USA. They're an organization that advocates for basic common sense, principles when it comes to economics, when it comes to acquiescing to the far left and wokeness. And again, all the toxic progressives I talk about on this show, ladies and gentlemen, that think that there's more than two genders. Like, Jesus Christ, you're a grown adult. You're telling people by walking around when you're so woke that you failed high school biology. And then when you went to college or even graduate school, you're still espousing this sort of stupidity. Or the fact that some of you have business degrees and you walk around with intellectually bankrupt policy prescription when it comes to economics. No, we don't print money. No, nothing is free. It's taxpayer paid. Okay, so when someone says, oh, free community college or, free this or free that. No, folks, nothing's free. It's paid for with taxpayer dollars. But those on the left would never want you to figure that out because they want to keep you stupid. And that's the reality in the Bayonne School District. Well, you have some teachers and even some administrators or parents that want to demonize Turning Points USA. They're a reputable organization. And once again, shout out to Maria Vallado for standing up to these idiots in Bayonne, because all these kids want to do is follow, again, common sense philosophies when it comes to the free market system, when it comes to freedom of speech. Isn't it funny, folks, when we talk about liberals and those on the left, they're all about free speech. They're all about, the right to express yourself. Yeah, as long as they like what they hear, as long as they agree with you. But if they don't agree with you, here comes the cancel culture. Here comes, so-and-so is a blankist or a blankphobe. Folks, I get hit with this all the time. I get hit with Fernando's a homophobe, which I'm not. Fernando's a transphobe, which I'm not either. I've supported LGBT groups. I don't like the whole acronym stuff about LGBTQ plus ABC. It seems like they're adding an acronym every single week, right? And I'm not really down with some of these philosophies about, taking away parents' rights when it comes to their children. But that's what some of the LGBT community want to do, or that's what some on the left want to do when it comes to progressive politics. Folks, there's nothing wrong with these kids at Bayonne High School or anywhere trying to advocate and use their First Amendment to, again, utilize or invoke conservative principles, which we all know work. They work when it comes to economics and when it comes to social issues. Not every social issue, but a good majority of them. But you wouldn't know that because those on the left can't come to the table with facts and information and data. All they can come with, with name calling and ridicule, because if they don't agree with you, you're a racist. Oh, you're a xenophobe. Oh, you're a transphobe. Oh, you're a homophobe. Oh, you're an ageist. Oh, you're a sexist. Folks, that act is old, and people like me keep calling it out until hopefully some of these grown-ass adults that are acting like children actually start acting like their age. And that might not be happening anytime soon. Folks, we won't be having a show next week, and of course it is Thanksgiving. I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to all of you that have helped make Talking Politics here with the Hudson Media Group a success. When I first started this show in April of 2019, and I sat down with Pat O'Melia weeks preceding that, I didn't know what to think. I wasn't sure, A, if Mr. O'Melia was going to give this show the green light and whether or not he would continue to believe in it. But 2+ years later, you know what? I'm glad he did. And quite frankly, I'm thankful to him. I'm thankful to the excellent production staff here that works with me, is patient with me, and goes through various takes when doing this show, during filming, and of course, during production. But I'm thankful to all of you also, for everyone that tunes in every single week via social media, whether it's on Facebook, whether you catch it on Instagram or Twitter, or just catch it on YouTube. I'm especially thankful to all of you, my parents, friends, my inner circle, a lot of my colleagues, a lot of fans, and even some of the haters who, for whatever reason, hate the show or like to vilify it on social media, but they keep watching. So I don't know what's wrong with you. Are you just a masochist? Are you a sadist? I don't know. What is it? You must love torturing yourselves if you keep tuning in every week, and then, of course, you take to social media to sort of bash me or vilify me. So again, I'm thankful to all of you that take the time to tune in. It's not easy, folks. Opinion journalism is laborious. It can be exhausting. But it's also fulfilling, especially for someone like me who's a proud conservative and really the only conservative journalist, not just in Hudson County, but really throughout the state of New Jersey, that's making it, his life's mission to be that sort of conservative voice for people, not just in sort of the institution of journalism, but really when it comes to activism, when it comes to local, state, and even national politics. These are the things that really matter. And for a lot of us that are on the right, and again, I'm not far right, as you know, I tend to be a very commonsensical conservative. But for a lot of you out there that watch this show every week, I'm extremely thankful to all of you. So again, on behalf of myself and the show here, I want to wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving. It's a better Thanksgiving than it was last year during COVID. And let's hope that going into 2022, we have a lot of great things to enjoy and cherish. And once again, folks, thank you to everyone that continues to make Talking Politics with the Hudson Media Group a success as it is every single week here. And that's our show for this week. To check out all the excellent programming brought to you by the leader in independent media here in Hudson County, the Hudson Media Group, please go to their websites, www.hmgtvshows.com, as well as www.livestream.com/hmgtv, and also look up the Hudson Media Group on YouTube. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on both Instagram and Twitter. You can check out editions of the 5-time award-winning podcast, Talking the Hudson, by going to www.blogtalkradio.com/talkingthehudson. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, ladies and gentlemen, at Professor Fernando Uribe. Also, hit me up on Twitter at NoFilterUribe. And make sure you like Talking Politics with Fernando Uribe on Facebook. And, of course, also like Talking the Hudson on Facebook as well. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always Talking Politics right here with the Hudson Media Group. I am New Jersey's premier journalist and the sworn enemy of all the toxic progressives, social justice clowns, and woke fools throughout Hudson County and New Jersey. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and thank you as always so much for watching.
Don't forget to catch Fernando's podcast at blogtalkradio.com/talkonthehudson. New episodes available every Wednesday night at 9 p.m.